Good evening. I'd like to call the Narragansett Town Council meeting October 15 to order. Please stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take a moment of silence. Father Baressa from St. Mary's Star of the Sea passed away late this afternoon, so let's take a moment of silence. He was a priest there for many, many years and will be greatly missed. Thank you. First order of business is the approval of the minutes for September 17th, 2018, regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. October 1st, the regular meeting, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. October 4th, 2018, a special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Showcase tonight. We have a special showcase, and at this time, I would like to give a special thanks to Ann Irons, who has worked very closely with me over the last 10 years. She's been the guiding light for my work in many of the councils, and I'm proud to call her my friend. This will be her last town council meeting with this group sitting here up tonight, so we want to say thank you to her, and we wish her a wonderful and enjoyable retirement, December 31st. Yes, President Pro Tem would like to say something.
We've all worked with Ann for a long time, so I wanted to thank her for her service. And I'll always remember the story where she, it was on one of the national cable news channels after the election, where she had to drive out to the ferry because the Block Island Board of Canvassers had run out of ballots for one of the elections. So she had to hastily deliver them to the ferry and make sure that they were ferried over. So, but many stories I'm sure everyone has, but I don't know if everyone knew that one. So thank you, Ann.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to say anything? Okay.
I'm here till December 31st.
Yes, we are not all going to be here is really the message, so we wanted to say our goodbyes as the last sitting council with you. Okay, it is now time for, Jim, do you have any reports?
No, I do not.
Okay. Open forum. Please, when you come up, your name, 3 minutes. Paul, are you with? No.
Good evening, Phil Cody. I'm an orthopedic surgeon.
Address.
This is a public health announcement about flu shots. Last year, the flu claimed 80,000, that's eight with 4 zeros after it, lives in this country. To put in perspective, motor vehicle accidents claimed 39,000 or 40,000. I assume everybody in this room wears a seatbelt because it's the right thing to do and because it's the law. I would urge you to continue wearing your seatbelts, but to damn well get a flu shot this year. Promises to be another shitty year for the flu.
Thank you. Okay, Paul.
Good evening. My name is Paul Zonfrillo. I hail from 7 Windward Circle in the great town of Narragansett. I'm going to have two things to talk about this evening. The first one is this agenda that we have. This agenda tonight, Madam President, is ridiculous. It's packed with items. It's really designed to jam quite a bit of things through at the last minute. And what it's really about isn't just the agenda, but about this. This is a scorecard the Democratic Committee is passing around, and there are green checks for good and red X's for bad, putting the three Democrats together on the ticket. And when I spoke to you at the, and asked a question at the forum, I was told that you were all nonpartisan, but here you are running together, science together. So there's a lack of transparency there. There's a lack of transparency tonight in putting through this massive agenda. Now, the other thing I have is on agenda item 12. I've collected 29 signatures, and we request, the undersigned do hereby request a public hearing regarding the following: a motion to introduce, read, and pass, and accept the first reading for the ordinance adopting revisions to the Narragansett Pier Urban Renewal, number 12. So I'm going to submit this to the town clerk as required by the town charter and request a public hearing.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else wishing to speak? Joe.
Under the town charter, we're allowed to have 20 signatures without it. Doesn't say that.
So for clarification, we did have a public hearing. We've already concluded that, correct? Is that what, could I just hear that from the solicitor as well?
My understanding is if there was a public hearing, that would preclude a second mandated public hearing, but I would be willing to revisit that, but that's my understanding.
Thank you. Joe.
Thank you. Joe Lembo, 20 Black Alder Trail, Narragansett, with a brief message from our Narragansett 2100 organization. The Narragansett 2100 is a nonprofit organization created by the late Ray Kagels. It comprises of over 500 members of landlords, homeowner taxpayers with rental property in our town of Narragansett. These landlords, homeowner taxpayers provide a significant economic impact on the town by utilizing local service providers during the year, including plumbers, landscapers, carpenters, electricians, and so many others. We recognize the positive impact that our URI students and our tourists have on the Narragansett economy through their support of local businesses as well. Many of our local businesses would not be able to maintain their profitability over the 12-month period. Narragansett 2100's mission is to work with the town constituents to maintain and improve the quality of life in Narragansett. This includes educating URI students and landlords with rental property in Narragansett, helping to integrate URI students into the community as responsible citizens and creating a sense of community in our town. Working closely with the town police chief, the rank and file, the administration of our police department, the University of Rhode Island, and of course the property managers, we have achieved some positive results over these past 3 years. Noise complaints are down 37%. Arrests are down 18%. Social hosting is down 61%. And DUI is down 70%. A lot of attributes have to go to our town police department. But working together Narragansett 2100 continues to educate and interact with our landlords, and we provide our members with annual best practice guidelines and work with property and managers whenever an issue does occur. We hope to continue with a code of conduct that we will be offering up to anyone new coming into the town. And as you can see, our multi-pronged approach has been improving the quality of life in our town of Narragansett. We thank our town council, our town police, and everyone else who has worked together with us on this the past 3 years. Thank you.
Nice to hear, Joe. Thank you. And thank you to the police department for all their hard work and the leadership of the chief. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Stanley. Name and address.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett.
Thank you.
I would like to, I'd like to commend you. And the reason is I have a list of the nuisances or the college issues, and there was only one. Out of thousands of so-called college people we have only one party here from a nuisance house. I'd like to submit that so at least there's some proof of what's happening here. Obviously, you participated in causing a success here. We don't have so-called a college kid problem anymore. We really don't. Again, police, yourselves, have caused a solution to happen, police action to happen, and therefore we should unwind some of the failed solutions of the past. And I want to speak specifically to the landlord list. A long time ago, we had a landlord list start, and that was supposed to solve the problem. For almost 20 years, the landlord list was there as a possible solution. I'm sure you recognize didn't work, and I think I heard it was a $200,000 bill if you count retirement benefits and whatnot. So I really request that you would get rid of the un-American landlord list, save the taxpayers a couple $100,000, and save all that work that goes into this list, which is no longer needed. It's no longer needed, and the proof of that is the success here. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Anybody else wishing to speak at open forum? Steve.
Thank you, council members. Stephen Ferrandi, 44 Sylvan Road. I'd also like to reiterate the fullness of this agenda and a lot of important items being on there. We're kind of learning for the first time on some of these. We had heard that there's $400,000 going for the Pier Liquor Store. We weren't sure if we were going to borrow that or take it out of our funds. It looks like tonight we're going to borrow that. That was never made that clear. I was at several meetings about that. Second of all, on number 12, I think it's very important that before you move on to this number 12, that you take your solicitor's recommendation and get a confirmation that you can go forward with number 12 and not trample on other people's rights if they, so be it that they need a public hearing on it. That's what I had. Thank you. I would assume that you don't go any further till you get that cleared up. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, we're going to move on in the agenda.
Yeah, I'd like to move number 15 to the top, if we could do that.
Number 15 to the top. On new business?
Yeah, new business, I'm sorry, yep.
A motion to move it to the front of the agenda?
Yeah, yep, move to
Okay, I'll
move.
second. Okay. All those in favor of moving it up signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Sure,
Those
aye.
opposed?
Aye, yeah.
5-0, motion passes. Okay, the motion 15. I'm going to read the motion and then you can speak to it.
Sure.
So a motion to include the Pier Liquor Store retail space in the purchase of the Belmont Market in the Pier Marketplace in order to receive maximum reimbursement from the State Library Board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I would like to continue this to the next council or next term. Not table it, but continue it. I think there is some discussion that, that needs to be finalized and so forth, and there are some outstanding items, so I think it's better business to move it to the next council.
Agreed. Anybody else on the council?
I agree.
Okay, anybody from the public? We're going to continue. But we're on the motion to continue. So to discuss the motion to continue that motion. Oh, okay. All those, anybody else wishing to speak on it? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Any other agenda items? I was interested in, Jill, you put a motion on about not having the next meeting, and usually people watch the front of the meeting, so.
We're not going to do the consent agenda. We're going to go right to the regular meeting. We skipped over that.
No, but I just was wondering if we could move that up to the front since it's televised and people see that. Can we move that motion up to the front?
Sure, no
Do
problem.
we have a second on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that motion was motion 21. A motion to officially cancel the November 5th meeting, 2018 Town Council meeting. Do I have someone? to
Yeah, I'll
that?
move that.
Second.
And that was a request from the clerk because it's close to the elections. We wanted to give her that opportunity. So those in favor of this motion? Aye.
So actually, we're doing this because when we agreed to it, the five of us agreed, it wasn't according to Robert's rules, so because there was no agenda, just so everybody understands why we're doing this vote again. So there was no agenda item on, so we could not actually vote for it. So that's why I put it back on, so we could vote
Yeah,
for it.
that's great because I truly believe in Robert's rules as well, so that's excellent. Thank you, Jill. Anybody else wishing to speak? That's great. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes to cancel the November 5th meeting based on Robert's Rules of Order. Okay, moving to the consent agenda, do I have somebody that would like to pull anything on the consent agenda? Anybody from the council? Hearing none?
Yes.
Oh.
But why did I lose it? The item, I just thought it'd be worthwhile to, item number 3.
Okay, so approving the consent agenda, absent of 3. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Motion 3 on the consent, a motion to approve an application for a one-day peddler's license for Stuart Fishman, Ocean State Novelty, for the Festival of Lights on December 2nd, 2018, at the Gazebo Park, subject to local and state regulations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I just wanted to just tell people about the Festival of Lights coming up December 2nd. It's an important event, and I know Steve Wright and others work very hard on it, so it's really about a peddler's license, but it's an opportunity to let people know about that event, which is important, because people ask about that date often, so it's December 2nd.
Thank you, Matt. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. We're going to go to new business. So, new business, motion 12, a motion to adopt an ordinance revising the Narragansett Pier Urban Renewal Project land use plan at paragraph C2A and on the boundaries and land use map. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion?
So it's a second reading, correct?
Yes, correct.
And Mark, you received 20 signatures to ask for, out of an abundance of caution, is there an argument that we should hold a public hearing there?
Well, the charter makes it clear that 20 signatures can force or require a public hearing. But I'm just reviewing, there was notice properly given for 3 weeks. There was a public hearing. Unless there's decisions that are to the contrary or go further, I think that matter has been resolved. I think I'm happy to take a look at it, but I think the prior public hearing satisfies that. I think the way I would interpret that is if there was no public hearing and it wasn't properly advertised, then people could organize, obtain the necessary signatures and bring to fruition a public hearing. But I don't think it would operate to have, endless numbers of public hearings.
Or if there was a change to the plan between the two readings, because we always say that if there's a change.
If there was something material.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions?
I had a question. When did you receive that? Just now? Wasn't that supposed to be received during business hours to even be put in front of the council, technically? I mean, how do we know those signatures are 29 real signatures, for starters? No offense, but, I mean, this last 11th hour drop, come on now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Anybody from the public?
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Winwood Circle. The signatures are absolutely legitimate, and there's nothing in the charter that says you have to submit it. You submit it to the clerk. There's no time specified. I think the plan did materially change, especially when you think about the liquor store being borrowed and included all the different plans. So I'm very disappointed that council has ruled that way. And we're going to we've got all these library items that we're going to continue to jam through tonight. Mike, if we should delay the pier decision to buy the liquor store, why don't we delay the other things for the next council?
No, we didn't. Can I'll address this question to you? We're not continuing the purchase of the liquor store. We're continuing the use of the 4,000 square feet for a library.
Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? All those in favor?
Just want a question to an email that we received today from the manager's assistant saying that it looks like there's going to be a delay in the actual signing of the purchase and sales agreement to maybe potentially even of next week because you're waiting for the quitclaim deed. So out of the abundance of caution that our solicitor just mentioned, why wouldn't we can't sign it tomorrow, why wouldn't we want to have those signatures validated tomorrow just to make sure, I think it was Steve said that all these citizens here have the ability to speak. Why not?
So,
If
Mark,
we're not delaying the process, we can't sign it anyway.
Mark, you gave us your legal opinion, correct?
Yeah,
But that's not my question.
Let me just respond to Jill.
Robert's rules.
The purchase and sales agreement's been executed. We're now talking about effectuating the closing.
Right.
And at this stage, the documents have been received. I've reviewed them. They've been submitted to the underwriter for sign-off so the title policy can be issued. So the P&S has been signed. And with regard to the public hearing, I think it's important just for everyone to understand that the second reading here is really talking about zoning relief. And the zoning relief that was granted, to my knowledge, did not change in any fashion. So, yeah, I don't think, this is a very narrow issue or issues that we're talking about with regard to the second reading. I just don't think that a second reading would be warranted. I mean, a second public hearing would be warranted. Am I aware of every matter that's been decided and written? No, but that's my interpretation of the charter and the provisions therein.
Thank you.
Is the town aware of anything that may have corresponded between the owner of the professional building and the Gilbane organization that potentially could harm the town in this negotiating process?
It's been my understanding there was an agreement, there was a discussion between the owner of the property that Mr. Lodge owns, that there was a discussion between Mr. Lodge, Dr. Lodge, and Mr. Gilbane. I've heard, it has not come to me directly, but I've heard there was discussion, yes.
But any of that discussion, we wouldn't be held responsible for any type of agreement that was reached between those two parties in our purchase and sales. Does it have anything, or we have any culpability whatsoever to whatever that conversation may or may have not been?
We had a meeting today regarding the same issue we're discussing now, and
The solicitor, Mark Davis, was there, as well as the assistant solicitor, Steve Marcella, who's an expert in this type of, these matters here. And I asked that same question, and whatever agreement was made between those parties or whoever else discussed that, it's not with the town.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public? Steve?
Thank you, council members. Stephen Ferrandi. I just want to read the passage just real quickly. No ordinance shall be passed by the council at a meeting at which it is introduced, but shall be referred to a subsequent regular or special meeting at least 7 days hence a vote thereon. In the meantime, a petition signed by 20 electors of the town filed with the town clerk requesting a public hearing on said proposed ordinance, one shall be held at the next regular meeting following introduction. I think the people that signed may have a different opinion, so there again, I hope we have this vetted out correctly, and, you know, I know the solicitor's on record saying, I think we're okay, and I understand there was a previous public hearing, but in the abundance of caution, I'd like to have him, you know, just take a look at it and make sure that these are the people that signed this petition rights are not violated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I want to say something. Yeah, what constitutes filing? Handing you an envelope 5 minutes before the vote? Does that constitute filing?
Thank you. Meg?
Good evening, Margaret Rogers, 68 Earls Court. I just have a question for the council, respectfully. You can choose not to answer this or not, but as someone sitting here tonight, there's something that feels very untoward about this, and it feels like some of you were blindsided. It seems like Councilman Murray did not know about this, and I'm wondering if any council member had any communication or knew anything about the possibility that this was going to happen tonight, because it feels like our solicitor, our town manager, and our town clerk had no awareness of this. And as a resident of the town, I'm sure some people feel similarly. We'd like to know what happened here behind the scenes. Thank you, if anything.
Thank you, Meg. First time I've heard about it.
It's a temple shot.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody else wants to respond.
I agree with Steve, what Steve said about an abundance of caution.
Any other discussion?
Boy.
Okay.
You know, it'd be easier to approve a chief justice in this town than a library.
Okay, so
Madness.
seeing none, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
3-2, motion passes. Next item is number 13. A motion to reconsider the motion to approve the request of the Goodwill Industries of Rhode Island to place a donation bin on a trial basis at the community center.
Madam President, we have a public hearing at 8 o'clock, which is about a minute away.
I'm sorry, yes, thank you.
So we have 2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes, so we'll,
So this motion, I'll move this to reconsider.
Second.
This-
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
3-2, motion passes. All right, we'll go to the next one after the public hearing. We have about a minute, thank you. So when we come back, we'll be on
Deja vu all over again.
14.
Who said that? Yogi Berra.
Yogi Berra also said, no one comes here anymore, it's too crowded.
That's funny.
You tell, Ian, when you're all set, let me know. Mike, are you all set? Okay, it's 8 o'clock. I need a motion to open the public hearing for a petition from Bonnet Shores Beach Club Condominium Associations 175 Bonnet Point Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island, plot Lot 632, to allow live entertainment on a Friday evening from Friday on Memorial Day weekend to the last Friday in September. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes, and the public hearing's open, and Billy McGovern is at the podium, and I think he wants to speak to the Bonnet Beach Club.
Thank you, Town Council members. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss the Bonnet Shores Beach Club Association.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Yeah. Would you please state your name and your address?
yeah, it's William F. McGovern, 36 Old Pine Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Sorry about that. Good evening. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to discuss the Bonnet Shores Beach Club liquor license. With me tonight, fellow board member Victor Samaha, who is the chairman of the Entertainment Committee. Submitted with the club's liquor license application is a letter from President Kevin Lynch, the president of Bonnet Shores Beach Club. What prompted this letter this year and the request tonight was the board of directors discovered early in the season we have restrictions concerning live entertainment on Fridays for May, June, and July. On November 3rd, 2014, during the Bonnet Shores Beach Club liquor license renewal, the council approved live entertainment to 11:30 p.m. on Fridays for August and September. We're asking the council's permission to allow live entertainment for May, June, and July with 11:30 p.m. restriction. The club is not looking to have entertainment every Friday night, but we like to have the options for private functions or special occasions, as we did this past summer for the 4th of July celebration, which we had to come in front of the council for your approval. So that's what prompted us.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, so are there any complaints in the neighborhood? I mean, oh, there is? Oh, there's, so are there any complaints in the neighborhood?
There was one complaint, and it wasn't at the beach club. It was directed towards the beach club once the police responded, and I have that with me. It was coming from passing cars going by.
I mean, I've been there. It
And
seems
we also
like
have
it's
we
pretty
also have a
isolated.
decibel meter that we monitor the music. We had the entertainment sign an agreement telling them what the decibel levels can be, not to go over, and also when they have to terminate the music.
Yeah.
So we don't want to cause any problems, and especially the noise. Again, we haven't had any complaints this past year.
Every time I've been invited to the club, it seems like well-run, no problems. The music's until 11:30, so you're just asking for the month of September. If you would like to have something on a Friday night, that you would have the opportunity to do so without having to come back to us, correct?
Basically, we're looking for May, Memorial Day for May, June, and July.
Right.
We already have August and September
But for Fridays?
for Fridays.
Okay. All right, that's good.
And also, when we have a detailed police officer for any special function from now on. We started that this past year. So
Okay.
if there's a private function, a police officer, Narragansett police officer is at the club. As we did the 4th of July, I think we had 5 of them for the 4th of July.
Any other questions?
I see no problem with this, but since we have our town manager and our police chief here, just to have them weigh in if they so please.
Yeah.
This good.
I have no reason to object. We've never had an issue there.
Just want to make sure the town understood, because I've heard nothing but people just being very happy about the event, so.
Thank you, Billy.
Yeah, I think that complaint was a guy trying to get back in. That's what, that's what, that's what the, one
Any-
complaint, that's trying to
Anybody
get back
from the
in.
public wishing to speak on the extended Fridays? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Do I have a motion to accept the motion in front of us?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Now we have a public hearing, to open a public hearing on the renewal of the alcohol beverage licenses for the period of December 1st, 2018 to November 30th, 2019. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, the public hearing's open. And before we talk about approving the liquor licenses, there are quite a few of them, I just wanted to make comment, because I know there was some communication. All the applications, and Ann, just correct me if I'm making a mistake on this, they're all expired as of December 1st. And so, as we approve these licenses tonight, we'll be under the assumption that all the paperwork, the renewal application, the insurances, and any other town or state documents that we need on this long list of documents, that we have everything based on that, then we'll approve those licenses based on all of those recommendations, correct? Okay. I just wanted to make sure that did you want to say something?
Yeah, it's not made on the assumption. I think it's contingent upon the submittal of all those documents. So, it would pass contingent upon them meeting every requirement. If it's
Okay.
not, then the license is not issued.
Okay, yeah, because I knew there were some questions, and I just wanted the public and people at home to understand, we will make sure that we're contingent upon all that paperwork being included. Okay, so we're going to go through the licenses in the public hearing.
So I move to renew the 4 Class A alcohol beverage licenses subject to compliance with local and state regulations.
And I'll second that motion, and I'm going to go through the Class A's. So it's Bonnet Liquors, O'Neill Package Store, Pier Liquors, and Schwabi's Wine and Spirits. All those in favor? Oh, let's see, anybody from the public want to speak on those renewals? Anybody from the council? All those in favor of the renewal of those 4 licenses?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes.
Move to renew the 4 Class B limited alcohol beverage licenses subject to compliance with local and state regulations.
And I'll second that motion. I'll go through those renewals. There were 4, Aunt Carrie's, Cool Beans Cafe, Leo's Pizza, and the Bike Stop Cafe. Any questions, any concerns on those? Anybody from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Now we're on the Class Tavern alcohol beverage licenses.
Move to renew the Class B tavern alcohol beverage licenses subject to compliance with local and state regulations.
And I'm going to second, but I do want to bring up a concern. Let me go through the 3 licenses. One is the Aqua Blue Hotel, the Ocean Rose Inn, and the Break Hotel. I just wanted to make a point on the Aqua Blue Hotel down in the pier that we want to make sure that we get the renewal application, that the state taxes are up to date, and we're all cleared on those, and that there are no fire code regulations. We had an issue with this particular establishment after we approved it last time, so I just want to make that comment for the record, because I'm a little concerned about the Aqua Blue license, but I'm going to vote to renew it, but I just want to be on the record for making sure that the state taxes are cleared and everything. Any other comments from the council? From the public? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. And now we're on the 20 Class B licenses.
Move to renew the 20 Class B victualling alcohol beverage licenses subject to compliance with state and local regulations.
And I'll second that. And the 20 licenses are the Buster Crabs Burger Shack, Caterina's Italian Village, Champlain Seafood Deck, Arturo Joe's, George's of Galilee, Pancho O'Malley's, Bonneview, Marina Grill, New Dragon, Pelly's Place, Portside, Proof, PJ's Pub, Charlie O's Tavern on the Point, Coast Guard House, Spain Restaurant, Tea's Narragansett, Trio, Twin Willows, Captain Foggy's Fish House. Any discussion from the council? No. Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. And the last class of licenses are the Class D club alcohol beverage licenses for renewal.
Move to renew the 6 Class D alcohol beverage licenses subject to compliance with local and state regulations.
And I'll second that. And the following licenses, the Bonnet Shores Beach Club, the Dunes Club, Galilee Beach Club, Metatuxet Yacht Club, Petasquamscot Lake Shores Improvement Association, and Point Judith Country Club. Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? Stanley.
Stan Wachowski, Narragansett again.
Stanley, would you raise your
Yes.
your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. I don't know if I want to just speak to this one. Everything moves so fast that I kind of got lost a little bit, and I apologize. But I just want to generally speak to liquor licenses, and I know, is there any way we can move the issue on at what age can somebody buy and drink alcohol in this town? In other words, I'd like to see us go to
Stanley.
I'd like to see us go to the 24 years old.
Stanley,
In other words, nobody
Stanley,
can
tonight,
serve beer anywhere
Stanley, out of
to
order.
a person who's 24.
We are approving the licenses. We have,
Yeah.
yep. so-
I know, and I
May
missed the others, and I wanted to make a contingent.
you.
I was hoping that we could make that contingent to all the
Thank you.
people with licenses, that we don't serve people
Okay,
under
Stanley, you're speaking off
24 years
motion.
old.
Thank
And
you.
maybe in the future we
Thank
can
you.
do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thanks.
listening to me. I appreciate you listening to me.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought the last guy was the buzzkill, but
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the
Aye.
licenses? Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Thank you. I have a motion to close the public hearing on the liquor licenses.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Patrick, was that a second?
I second it.
Oh,
He's second.
Mike, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Public hearing is now closed, and we're going to go back to item 14 on new business. Number 14, a motion to approve the request from the Goodwill
that's the
Industries.
same one. That's the same one. It's
Oh.
doubled. It was
Well,
doubled.
no, we
No, it's
reconsidered
not.
it, and then you had
We-
to.
There's two motions.
Oh, okay.
13 was to reconsider. We're
Oh,
on
all
motion
right. Oh, I got you.
14.
I
Thank
got
you.
you.
A motion to approve the request from the Goodwill Industries
Oh,
of
I
Rhode
got you.
Island to place a donation bin on a trial basis at the community center.
reconsider.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Do I have discussion?
I just put this back on. I wasn't here the last meeting. I was traveling, and I would have certainly voted to approve the Goodwill bin being at the community center, so I thought it was important, especially since I think Town Manager Manny had requested it, so I wanted to put it back on.
Appreciate it, and I know Kevin's out there, and we did say it was a pilot. We were going to pilot if we had any issue. I did hear Kevin say that he would work with the town in the best interest, and so I was comfortable then, so. Any other discussion?
Well, the question I had, and I'll reiterate it tonight, Mike, you weren't here for it, is that this was brought before a former council in 2015, and at that time, it was pulled from the agenda, and Patrick and Susan and Matt were all members of that council. So I guess I'm a little confused as what happened with Susan and Patrick since 2015 now to want to vote this way. Susan at the meeting, Mike, you weren't here, she did express the fact that she's seen bins like this in Cranston and it has been unsightly. We have them all across town. It's nothing against this gentleman. I'm sure he's a very nice man, and certainly Goodwill is a great organization. But the one thing in the motion that just really hits me, and is one of my pet peeves of things that we do in town, is sometimes we do things, and our rationale for doing things is he's a good guy, or I know a guy. In this case, is we have his phone number. That really does not give to me the belief that we can, you're going to call this guy on a Friday night at 1 o'clock in the morning when things are there. So for me, I just think that the council in 2015, again, that 3 of the members of this current sitting council were on who pulled the agenda item. And when I asked the town manager to take a look at why did staff do that in 2015, the reasons were very similar to the reasons that I stated last time, and Susan reiterated that it was a little unsightly. And that also, what Matt had brought up at the last meeting was that potentially this would cause DPW or some other source in town to have to render it. So for those reasons, Mike, that's why we voted. That's why I voted the way I did, and I know that's why the former council did as well.
Thank you, Jill. Anybody else wishing?
I'd like to speak. I don't remember this being on the agenda previously. Was this pulled before the meeting? Okay, that's why it never came in front of me.
Right, but when
So
I
I'm
know,
approving this now because I need a couch. I hope they put a couch there.
And I
One
don't.
couch. Just one.
And I don't. So I don't know. So I understand your concerns. The potential for unsightly bags, et cetera. I'm not concerned that we can't remediate that very quickly. I don't even know if I can't point Kevin out in the audience, so I don't know Kevin.
There he is.
Hi, Kevin.
It's not him, it doesn't matter.
So I've done a ton of work with organizations in other parts of the country, and Goodwill especially is a good organization. And I actually think it's a great spot because that's where a lot of folks are traveling in and out. So I think that was my reason. So.
Yeah, also, Kevin, I got 2 other locations for you in town.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, thank you, Patrick. Any other discussion from the council?
Well, the concern that was raised last time is the town staff, obviously, and that it's going to most likely fall on DPW. I'm not sure what department it would fall on, but that was the concern raised in the past. And, we tried to, we know that the DPW focuses on the plowing in the wintertime, and we talked in budget about even adding an employee to the DPW. I just think, we got to think about, we're not going to leave it if it's a mess, if it's on town property. So somebody of the town staff
All
is
right,
gonna go.
if there's a mess, call me, I have a truck, I will tie, we're in a 3-month trial period. If there's any problems, call me, I'll go pick the damn thing up, okay? For
Thank
God's
you,
sake.
Patrick. Thank you, Matt. Any other discussion? Meg?
Good evening. This council
Meg, state your name and address.
Hi. Margaret Rogers, 68 Earls Court. Thank you. This council recently renewed the contract of our town manager, Jim Manny, for, I believe, 3 years. And I think that was generally met with a lot of happiness by a lot of us in the community. So when you hire a town manager, you want to respect him, and you don't want to throw town staff under the bus. And I think we're all laughing at the absurdity of this, because if you don't trust the town manager to manage a Goodwill box, that is bizarre. That is just bizarre. And I wanted to apologize to this gentleman on behalf of, I would say, practically the majority of people in our community, because there's a lot of goodwill in Narragansett, and I think a lot of us welcome Goodwill and the work they do with the disabled community. I can't wait to patronize this box, tell people about it. It's a help to our seniors so that it's right outside where they gather. And thank you, Councilman Moretti, for being the voice of sanity and putting this back on.
Thank you, Meg. Anybody else wishing to speak? Anybody else wishing to speak? All those in favor of the motion in front of us?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
3-2, motion passes. Okay, so now we are on 15 was continued. Number 16 is a long, long motion. I don't think I've seen a motion like this in 10 years. So I'm going to just summarize it, and then I will read it for the public. So this motion is to allow the town treasurer to advance money for the property transferred per the purchase and sales agreement with GP Peer Realtor Gilbane Properties. Just so you know, it's a cash advance for us, so it's a long motion, so bear with me as I'm reading it, and then we'll open it for discussion. Number 16, a motion to direct the town treasurer to advance from the general treasury of the town to fund the purchase of the building formerly known as the Belmont Marketplace and 59 parking spaces, and the building currently occupied by Pier Liquors and 9 parking spaces, and the strip of parking spaces abutting the town of Narragansett's public safety building and running into Caswell Street, and the truck well and loading dock area. The total advance for the purchase price being $2,800,000, I lost my spot. The purchase price with $2,800,000, which the advance $2,400,000 is attributable to the purchase of the library unit, and it's to be reimbursed with the proceeds of the bond issued under the Resolution 2017-01, and $400,000 is attributable to the liquor store unit and parcel C, and is to be reimbursed from the proceeds of the said bond if said liquor store unit and parcel C is to be used for the library purposes, or if not to be used for the library purposes, reimbursement by the issuance of notices pursuant to the section 6-2-8 of the Charter of the Town of Narragansett. The town treasurer may also advance any closing costs which shall be reimbursed or repaid proportionately amongst said sources. The town hereby declares that it is reasonable reasonably expects to reimburse any advances for the library purposes which proceeds of the debt to be issued by the town. The motion is a declaration of official intent under Treasury Regulations 1.150-2. And again, very long wording, but basically it's a cash advance. And Laura, can you just come up and just clarify the wordiness of how we're going to get the advance and be paid back, so that the public and the council has clear understanding of this very complicated motion?
You are correct. It is a complicated transaction that is transpiring, and there is authorization for the bond, but there was no authorization for the other parcel and land. So when looking over the documents, this motion is just to allow me to advance funds for the closing to be reimbursed by both the bond, and if the liquor store is going to be part of the library, that this would also allow that parcel to be paid for by the bond if the council so wishes. And if not, then the $400,000 that has to be advanced, we're looking for authorization for notes on that $400,000. Is that?
Yeah, any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? All those,
Brendan Lodge, 4 Pendleton Place, Narragansett, Rhode Island. So you don't have the money, but you're going to get an advance towards it that the town will pay for, that you'll raise more debt against? I'm just asking. You did a very good job of explaining that 16 here. But
So-
all I really need to know here is, so this deal closes tonight on
No.
this?
No.
Because for the record, I want you to know that we're in discussions with Gilbane about closing off the parking spaces, or the entryways, I'm sorry, in front of our building to totally change the entryway into the pier. That's it.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Laura, I think you can come back up and explain, but I think,
Again, basically, that motion is just for the cash, which we have to fund the transaction.
thank
It's
you,
in
Laura.
reserve, that's the reserve we have.
It's actually,
Cash.
yeah, it's just cash
And
until
to-
I can get paid back with the
Yeah,
bond.
with a bond.
And to be clear, just because there was a motion regarding the liquor store, to be clear, if the motion, or if the town doesn't use that parcel as part of the library, then the town borrows the $400,000 to pay for that parcel in whatever fashion. If the town decides to use that parcel for the library, then they will get reimbursed
Through a bond.
through the bond, and then eventually through the state.
Richard?
Hi, Richard Vangermersh, 55 Osceola. I'd just like to give a very brief history of this, or at least what should have been the history of this. When this project reached the thought of the bond issue, there should have been a project committee, a management committee set up to study this, the cost of it. It wasn't done in 2015. The Finance Committee asked for the foundation of a library projects committee, which I don't know has ever met. But we are at a point where we are going to, and I will be willing to state this, overspend the bond issue if we handle the liquor store as part of the library. We're going to overshoot the bond issue by $4.2 million. This is my estimate. I've certainly done enough estimates of cost and budgets. We have never heard the project committee which we founded, I believe, 2 years ago, speak. I have never heard an architect speak on this. The problem is, quite frankly, we will never be able to raise the additional $4.2 million. And even if we do, this will drag in for about 4, 5, 6 years. We just have got to stop and do what we should have done in 2015, what we should have done when we founded the Library Project Committee. We need an architectural design. I believe that putting the liquor store in this may not even be architecturally possible. We just don't have the facts. We've had 4 years to get these facts. They have never appeared. So I will predict what we have here, especially if we include the liquor store and that hideous inner sanctum above it. This may never be finished. As well-meaning as we are, bad project management will kill any project.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else wishing to speak? Gloria.
Gloria Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road. As Mr. Moretti has said in articles to the newspaper, and as the library board has said over and over again, the bond is $5.8 million. Anything over that, the library board is responsible to raise those funds. You required us to hire a professional fundraiser, and we have. Let's stop this nonsense of trying to throw every single obstacle in the road that you can possibly think of, both council people and residents of this town. Get this project moving. Labor costs are going up every day. Material costs are going up every day, and the more delay, the more it will cost. The library board has never, ever said that we will go over that $5.8 million. And it's time for all you naysayers to stop the nonsense and to have this project go through.
Thank you, Gloria. Paul?
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. I think that last speaker, that's the closest I've ever been told to sit down and shut up by somebody. How dare we oppose the library? Mr. Lodge just walked in here and dropped a bomb on us. Has a side deal with Gilbane. I mean, you're pushing this through now because you have the votes, right? If you have the votes, you're afraid what's going to happen after the election. I find it really interesting that the decision to use pure liquors is too political. We must decide that after the election, but we're going to spend all the money for the library. And pardon us if we don't trust the people on the library board. These are the same group that threatened to sue the town and hired an attorney with funds that very well could have been used to support the new library. You guys are trying to jam it through because you have the votes. Lack of transparency for sure. You know, if it's good, if we can put the pure liquor decision forward, because it's too tough to make now, you should have this decision made by the next council, because they're going to have to deal with it.
Thank you.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
Yes.
All right, let's do that. Let's wait for the new council to get elected, okay? Let's do that. Okay, there's a little thing in our contract with Gilbane called specific performance. We get a new council in here, and they say, nah, I think we changed our mind, and they walk away from the table. Theoretically, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, we can get sued, give Gilbane $2.8 million, and not end up with a building.
Okay.
Is that possible, Mark?
Okay, so no yelling out in the chamber, please.
I think the specific performance is probably likely But if we were forced to make payment on it, we would get title to it. But we are beyond any walkaways at this point. The contingencies have expired, the appeal periods have expired, and at this point, we are contractually bound to close this deal.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion?
I think the concern that people have is that there are differences of opinion in Narragansett and in America. And so I expressed my concern April of 2017 in the executive session when our appraised value came back. The assessed value of the property, $1.8 million. Our appraisal came in at $2.045. We are talking about $2.8 million right now. This is the number we have control over. So this is the number that we have control over. We're not going to have control as much over building costs when those come in, because those change. We all know projects can go over budget when people work on their own houses, when people build decks. So just multiply that. Again, we assessed value of the property 1.8. We asked for an appraisal. There's a reason you asked for it. It was 2.045. I felt as a council we should have stuck there. People say, oh, it was only $350,000 at that time. But now we've seen it morph. We're at $2.8 million. I'm not going to just say, there was a wise person who once said, some boards have one brain but 5 bodies on them, or one brain and 7 bodies on them. That is not what democracy is about, and there should have been more of a discussion of these issues. And I regret that I probably didn't bring them out, but we were in executive session at the time, and I respected that. So that's the concern. I think the public needs to know about that, and it's okay for people to disagree on a controversial topic.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, I'd like to reply to that. The public certainly needs to know that the initial appraisal was updated, okay? Because we did add the liquor store, we did add parking lot, we did add 1.2 acres, okay? So we had an appraisal on a condo. Now we own a lot. It's going to say the town of Narragansett on it, with 68 parking spaces. The new appraisal was 2.77. It's like within 35 grand of the 2.8. So I think the public need to know that, Councilman Mannix.
And I think the public needs to know Patrick, that 3 days after we had the vote in October of last year on this, that you met with Gilbane offline after voting against it. And that's fine, but I think the public also needs to know that. And I know that's an important fact, and I wonder why we have this deal now, which...
Well, I'll respond to that.
Well, wait. I have something to say. A couple things. One thing is, and this is something that everyone should pay attention to. I mean, 2 years ago when this project was approved, interest rates were about 1.25 points less than what they are now. So if you do the math over the bond repayment, right, or et cetera, so we're going to pay more money because we've waited 2 years. We're going to pay more money in building costs and labor costs. And the appraisal, the first appraisal was exactly what Matt said. There was a second appraisal, which was a little higher. And then we added stuff to that. And I'm going to personally say if it wasn't for Pat, and this is not a political statement, if it wasn't for Patrick Murray pulling us out of a deal that wasn't good for the town initially, we wouldn't be in the position we are in now, which is a way better position for every taxpayer in Narragansett.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, I disagree because the second appraisal that came in, which was for $2.4 million, was the appraisal by Gilbane. Our appraisal was our appraisal.
No.
Yes, it was.
We have our same appraiser, Indolfo Appraisal.
No, there were 2 separate appraisals. I have them back there.
We have 2 appraisals from Indolfo. One was the
one was what we asked for an appraisal.
We have 3.
And then the Gilbane asked for an appraisal, as in most land contracts that take place. The bottom line is that this deal has morphed into something that is unrecognizable to most people. I understand the condo argument versus the owning of the land, but in the end, this is something, the bottom line on this deal is this is not what was intended when people were looking at this original deal, and there's a lot of frustration about that.
If I may, President, the only thing this morphed into is a better deal. The reason Gil Bain reached out to me last October was because I talked of ownership. The town needs to put their hand on something. They need to own a plot of land. And he came back, and we did meet. Me and Susan did have a breakfast with him. And then he came back with a new deal. We did a new appraisal, and it's within, I think it was under 40,000, it was like 37,000 within the 2.8. So it's a much better deal. I mean, you were squawking about the previous appraisal that was $380,000 a pot, but this one's, in line. And then, last year you already paid $400,000 for an HVAC system for a building that we're making 10 grand on. So I don't know where your math is coming from.
I'd never voted for the $400,000 for the Kinney bungalow, if that's what you're talking about.
You're on the trust.
Yeah, I voted against it at the land trust level.
All right, let's get back to...
Well then, okay, you want to talk about the better deal. The whole issue of the condo was that we didn't want condo fees. That was the whole issue. Now they've got a new name. They're called common area maintenance fees. They were not eliminated. It was not a good negotiation behind closed doors 3 days after in October. It was a disaster. It didn't work. That's the problem. Condo fees, common area fees, they're the same thing. You didn't get rid of them. That's what we wanted gotten rid of. That was the real sticking point with condo.
Council President, can I respond to that?
Yes, and the last response, and I'll go to the public.
The meeting with Gil Bain, he just asked me what my definition of ownership was. There was no negotiation. I explained to him what I was looking for. And they came back, carving out a lot, carving out parking spaces. And we couldn't put a property line through the liquor store and the market. So we had to absorb the liquor store to carve out a lot. So it's morphed in to where the town is going to own 1.2 acres in the pier, okay? For me, this is consecrated ground. It's a no-brainer. We're getting the center of town back. We're getting a building that meets the requirements for our new library. It's going to change the whole dynamic of the pier for the next 50 years.
Thank you, Patrick. Anybody from the public wishing to speak?
Sure, Susan. Before it goes to the public, I know, Patrick, that's constantly something that I've been saying. This is morphed into something different. And what I mean by that is the original project was for $5.8 million that the town voted for. It's well beyond that right now. I know that you're very happy about it. Mike is, Susan is, and the library board certainly very pleased about it. But there is a good percentage of people in town who did not vote for this project, and they're not so happy. So you have to understand that there are two sides to it. But the bigger question I have to ask Mark is I had asked a hypothetical tonight saying that I had heard that potentially there might be some type of a negotiating going on between the lodges and Mr. Gilbane. Is that the reason why we're not going to be signing the purchase and sales? Is there a negotiating that's going on that we don't know anything about, that the public doesn't know anything about, and is going to delay things?
No. Just to make sure we all use the same terms. The purchase and sales agreement was executed in March.
Right.
So we're talking about the settlement statement.
Closing.
And to convey ownership via the deed. No, I have not been privy to any conversations between that gentleman and Gilbane, and frankly, when we take ownership of that property, any agreements that Gilbane may have reached that are not recorded, and we do the rundown to ensure that we're aware of everything on record. The town is certainly not obligated to satisfy obligations that Gilbane has signed up to. So, no, I'm not aware of any negotiations. The town is not obligated, and that has nothing to do with holding up the transaction at this point. At this point, it's a pure legal underwriting, title insurance underwriting process, which we expect to be resolved tomorrow.
Can I speak of cost?
Yes.
Okay, you brought up cost. Currently, we do have a $5.8 million bond that was approved, but there's interest on that bond. Okay, so the total cost, all in, is $10.5 million over 20 years. With a 40% reimbursement from OLAS, that number gets knocked down to 7.2. We need to raise $1.4 million to get us to our 5.8. Dan Barry's here, and he's been doing a great job, and I am confident he's going to well exceed that $1.4 million to bring us over the line to build out the library.
Thank you. So anybody coming up, new comments, anything different from what we've heard, okay? Karen? And we have to keep it to the motion. Thank you, Councilman Moretti. The motion before us, I know people are taking the opportunity, and I'm giving a little leeway because I know people want to speak on it, but let's try to stay to the motion in front of us.
Karen Chepshowitz, Wanda Street. We all know it's easier to chop and obstruct and complain and chop down rather than to grow. And I think the whole essence of this argument is that we're trying to build a community and not divide a community. Community divided against itself cannot stand. And there have been plenty of meetings, plenty, and the public has been allowed and invited to attend them. And they don't come and they don't do their homework. Certain people that keep objecting and throwing up these smoke screens, and it is costing us more time and energy, and it's very discouraging. And I would hypothesize this is being done for political reasons to get votes by thinking you're not going to cost the town money. You can shake your head as much as you want, but you've continued to criticize and you haven't come up with better plans over these 2 years.
Speak to me, Karen. Speak to the chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Mr. Moretti, Mr. Murray, Susan, and Mr. Pugh for all advocating for the library for this community. And I'd like to thank them for building a community that can get along and appreciate what the public and the many people that use the library have been advocating for 2 years. We shouldn't have to grovel every step of the way and have smoke screens and other things thrown at us.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else wishing to speak to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
3-2, motion passes. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
I just asked Laura, I mean, if I had my way, I would have put the use of $400,000 to authorize her to borrow the former, because now it's like, okay, what do you do? Because you don't need to pay yourself back. I mean, you're basically, it's like writing a check on your checkbook.
It is, but...
Oh, you're saying it might, the next council might not.
Well, it is, but do we want it? If we pay for the money, we get out of the reserve.
Right. So you want, yeah. No, right.
So, would you finance it?
Yeah. And if it doesn't get used for the library, then it's, you own it for the laundromat.
It's unbelievable. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We're on motion number 17, a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the town to issue up to $400,000 notes for the purchase of the real estate. Patrick Murray, you in the?
He's coming back.
All right. Okay. I just read the motion,
I'll move that motion.
and I'll second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Patrick, we're on 17. We're up for discussion on motion 17. Anybody on the council wishing to speak? Yeah, I think you're right. Anything else you want to add? No, okay. Patrick, anything you want to say on 17?
I think we're good.
Yeah, okay. Anybody from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we got
I was
one
just
up.
in the middle of calling it. Come on up.
One guy.
Okay, I'll let you come up.
Hi, Tom Dolan, Sconnet Boulevard, Narragansett. I guess the land in question in the area, when I first moved to Narragansett, we had a police station, fire station, and a gas station with a water view. Is this 17 I'm on, or am I with a $400,000
Yeah.
purchase, right? Okay. I've seen the town council belabor issues from 40 years ago. They spent over an hour trying to close part of Ocean Road 200 yards so they could have a race with 600 people. It's developed into a great scenario. I feel that you're in the liquor store business or whatever you're going to start to purchase, and you can bail out Gilbane. I'm good friends with the Gilbanes. And first of all, I want to say that I'm a proponent of the library. I went to the fundraisers. I'm all in favor of this town being fiscally sound, and that's what I'm concerned about. I look at this white elephant that you're when I thought of the library, I thought of a campus scenario over near the senior center. The seniors would go in there, the kids would come from the school. That's not going to happen. Although under council, they say that you can't get out of any once the P&S has been signed. And all the real estate that I purchased, I always threw the caveat in under agreeable financing. I'm wondering if you're going into a scenario that in this liquor store, that might be the booklet section, or the e-books will be in there, or the drones will be delivering the books. We don't know, I do know what the future of libraries are. They're going the way of Sears and Roebuck and the churches. People are not going to the libraries. Is this come off my time, or I didn't say anything? I knew I shouldn't have said it. You say one little thing. And again, I'm for the library. But it is a fact that libraries are not getting. I don't know how many times you people have been in the libraries in the last year. And yes, the demographics, I know the age group. And there's studies out there that'll show you I'm not trying to down the library, I'm for it, but it's a dying breed, so to speak, the library as we know. The cost of libraries in the future is going to be altogether different. It's going to be much more expensive than books. But I look at this council almost like they bought a timeshare and they're all excited, but they don't know what the fees are and what it's going to entail in the next future. And that's all I'm asking. If you're going to spend another $400,000 for this, another $1 million, maybe $2 million, I don't know how the rest of the money is going to be raised.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
3-2, motion passes. 18, a motion to restructure the library building committee based on the OLIS recommendations set forth below. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I wish to propose the same argument that Mike did as far as holding off the purchase of talking about what the building will be used for. That's a pure liquor. Let's bring this back to the next council. The only thing we're sure of is Mike won't be on it. We don't know what the makeup of the council will be. And this has turned into a project that's going to be needed to be fiscally responsible, and we watch. But the working component of the council and what the library committee will be, and I'm going to also make this motion when we talk about the appointees for the library board, is going to be vital to the success of the project. So therefore, let's let the next council make this choice, and that way the town will succeed in the project.
So I want this for the record because I agree with Jill Lawler, which is very rare this term, so
The last meeting, there we go.
Yeah, so the last meeting of our term, we agree on something, so that's a first. I want that duly noted for the record. But I agree because I do think that we interviewed, we went through a process, we had a vision for this committee. Now, OLIS has given us some other recommendations, and I think considering that, we do have to look at them and adhere to them, and I think it's hard to do that at this moment.
Yeah.
As far as the 7 members, who will they be? One of the things I do remember when we were on a conference call with OLIS is that they said, make sure the library board has much stake in that committee because they're driving the vehicle on this. We're going to watch the spending, but they're the librarians, and they're going to be the vision for the library. So OLIS recommendations are that library board members have, a viable piece of, or there's good stakeholders in that committee. So tonight, I don't know the makeup that.
So can I, since I put this on, can I just say a couple things?
I was just happy to agree with Councilwoman
that's good.
Lawler.
I'm not stuck either way. What I want everyone to be clear of is library boards build libraries. Towns, if you want to get reimbursed by the state of Rhode Island, library boards build libraries. The town can certainly oversee and interface with the building committee and make recommendations, but if you want to get reimbursed to the maximum possible amount of money from the state of Rhode Island, in which we've received not one dime yet ever in this town for library expenses or construction, then the structure should be made up something similar to what is in this motion. An even amount of people from the library board, the town council, chosen members, impartial folks, and then you have oversight from the town in terms of disbursement of funds, and the library board hires architects, and the library board hires experts and fundraisers to recoup, dollars over and above the bond amount. So that's why this was put on, and I thought it was important based on the closing of the property. But I'm fine with letting it go to the next council. But I want everyone to understand that 2 years ago, imagine that, 2 years ago we formed a building committee because 2 years ago we voted for a $5.8 million bond project to build a library, and the people that were on. Or the people that were interviewed and picked for that committee, some of which are running for council, some of which I don't even know if they're still in town, and so forth. So I do agree that those folks should be, or at least re-interviewed people and make it a viable committee that works well for everybody.
Okay, so is there a motion to continue it then, or is that?
I motion to continue to the second meeting that the new town council will have. This way they won't have to decide the Monday before Thanksgiving, but the first meeting in December. Date certain.
Well,
So,
Second.
I'm not sure. I
Madam
can second
President,
yes.
can't we just approve this makeup? It's only 7 members, 3 from the library, 3 appointed by the town, which are more construction folks, and just approve this. I mean, we're not picking anybody, sticking any bodies in here, so we can't approve the building committee?
Why not just let the new council approve
Structure.
everything?
Yeah,
the
but it's
structure and
7
everything?
seats. The
Well,
recommendation is 7 seats. If the new council comes in, they have to pick 7 seats. Let's just get this chapter.
let's give them the full authority to do whatever they want.
I don't see why we have to kick the can down the road here. What do you think?
Richard?
Here we have another stunning case of lack of transparency. If there ever were an important motion where we needed to see who is on the library projects committee now and what the, OLIS suggests, it's now. We just don't have transparency. Maybe you've never heard of the word transparency, but it's the basis of accounting control, fiscal control, and you 3 people don't have any idea about transparency. You all belong to the la-di-dee, la-di-da-di School of Control.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. So there's a motion up here, amended motion to continue. Mike, you seem like you were fine with that. It's your motion, so I think it looks like we could probably...
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Patrick, and I also agree that, yeah, it's important work, so the next council should really think hard about it. This is, and Madam President, I don't know if some of the public understands where my degrees are from and what my degree is and how much research and how much work I do on a daily basis when it comes to regulations. And this particular piece of information for the library building committee makeup was fairly new information within the last 4 days. So it was posted as soon as we found it. And there is a committee that was in place 2 years ago that we also published the names and experiences of all those folks, and it was advertised. And I think one of the members one of the members of the public that got up here and spoke just recently, I think actually interviewed for one of these committees. So I mean, I think I've been fully transparent. I think the folks that are in favor of this project have been pretty transparent. I think this is a great makeup. It comes from the woman who runs the reimbursement of library services. You know, she runs OLIS for the state of Rhode Island. She disperses the funds. So it's important. If this council doesn't want to pass this makeup, then fine. I highly suggest the next council take this recommendation.
Madam President, can I chime in again?
Yeah.
It's 21 hours.
Now we know what time it is.
Okay, this is pretty straightforward stuff. There's no big, disclosure. I mean, it was posted. This is it. Library Building Committee makeup. The Library Building Committee should be comprised of 7 voting members. 3 members chosen by the Library Board. 3 members chosen by the Town Council. 1 member chosen by both parties as a neutral, impartial participant. And that's it. There is no, that's it. There's no hidden agenda, backroom smoky deals or anything like that. This is a simple committee. Whether the new council gets in 3 weeks, it's yes or no on the same committee. These are empty chairs. We're not appointing anybody. We're just moving one of our issues forward. So I don't understand what the...
Say again?
We already do have a committee. We have a sitting committee. We'd have to change it.
We
So
do, but...
That's why, that's just...
That motion
That's what this
is-
motion is.
Yeah, that's what that motion is.
I mean...
But it would change it.
Yeah,
But
so
it's
the
a
motion, so the motion was to change the form of the committee. That's all the motion was.
Based on the recommendations from Karen from OLIS, so it's pretty...
She's
pretty
the one writing the
confident-
checks.
Yeah, we're pretty confident that she's the one that's going to be working with the committee, so she knows the state compositions of the other library committees around the state. So her recommendations, in my opinion, I mean, you did a conference call, correct? Can you just reiterate what she said on the phone?
Yes, Madam President. Approximately 2 weeks ago, at a meeting with the several members of the library board and several members of the staff. This was the question that we wanted to ask amongst others, but this was the most important one about the library building committee. Currently, there are 11 members. 2 do not vote on that. I think there were 9 left that would vote. She stated 2 things. Number 1, the committee was, in her experience, was too big. And number 2, it was weighted more towards the town and not the library board. When we asked her what she envisioned as a more balanced library building committee, she stated 7 members would probably be the best, as you see it right here. 3 picked by the town, 3 picked by the library board, and 1 impartial.
Okay, so these are her recommendations in this motion.
Yes, it is not a requirement, but it is a recommendation that she made that clear.
Excellent.
And for the record, if we can't agree to move this forward, how the hell are we going to build a library?
So Pat, again, that's going to be the next council that's going to do that. So let's have the confidence in the next council to make this decision.
To say
and
yes
make
on
the
7
next.
members.
What
Okay. Yeah, I have
originally-
confidence in that.
What I originally said, but now that you confirm that Karen from Olis has this.
Yes.
I can absolutely, that's a recommendation, so I feel comfortable with that. Did you want to say something, Mark?
I did. There's one thing that we haven't discussed that needs to be taken into consideration, and that is the comments from bond counsel. So we have OLIS reimbursement, but bond counsel working with Laura. There's all sorts of federal laws, state laws, certifications, and so we met with Lori and Dave, bond counsel, and had a conversation, and there has to be this balance between complying with the bond laws and handling those proceeds and working with OLIS to ensure reimbursement. So I just don't want the bond compliance piece of things to get lost. Jim was in that meeting. So I think everyone left that meeting. I know everyone agreed that it's a good balance, that the requirements that OLIS is setting forth be satisfied, but we have to ensure that the recommendations from bond counsel are also followed. So that's all I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on the motion from the council? Anybody? Anybody from the public? All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
It was a motion to continue it to the 2nd of December.
Well, after that, I think there was a.
No one
That's what
changed the
Jill did,
motion.
and I seconded it.
Okay, so you made a motion.
I made a
What's the
motion to
motion?
change the motion to
Okay.
be able to continue this into the second meeting of the council, which will be the first meeting in December.
Okay,
And I
then-
seconded that.
Okay, and then we discussed, and there was a huge change in discussion after the manager spoke, so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll vote on her motion to continue. Okay, motion to continue.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. I can't hear you guys.
I said no.
No.
3-2 motion fails on the nay side. So we're not going to continue. So let's go back to the original motion that's before us tonight, which is the composition of Karen from OLIS that, Mike put this on? Yeah, yes. All those in favor of the motion in front of us tonight?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
3-2 motion passes. Okay, I changed on that. I was going with no, but then I.
Understood.
After
I mean,
I listened to the
it's
manager.
7 empty seats.
I listened to the manager, his
seats.
conversation with OLIS. Okay, the next motion.
Assistant
19, a motion to create an affordable housing collaborative committee, which will consist of 7 people on the committee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
We want to discuss that.
No, a quick question. No, sorry, no question. I just got my answer.
So I'm not really quite sure where this came from. I haven't had any emails, any correspondences from anybody looking for this. This kind of is coming out of the blue. We haven't discussed it as a council.
It's a motion that I put on about affordable housing.
Right, and I know, but I'm trying to find out where it's coming from, Susan, because unless anybody else here has received emails or correspondences from individuals looking for this, I haven't.
Okay.
I'm just asking where it's coming from. I mean, is it, have people been asking you, Susan? I just don't understand where it's coming from.
So I put the motion on because affordable housing did come up this term. People came before the council and talked about the struggle of affordable housing. I did talk to Mike DeLuca and talk to him about what they do in South Kingston to encourage affordable housing. So there's no emails going back and forth. It's about a concept that I think would be helpful. As you remember, a woman came up and said, you know, Narragansett doesn't have any affordable housing. So it's a way to have a group begin to look with the planning board on opportunities for affordable living in Narragansett. And that's about the summary of it, Ms. Lawler.
Well, Susan, I don't mean for you to get upset for me asking a question and clarifying, because I hadn't had anybody ask me about this. You know, we've had a couple people come up, but it just seems kind of like out of the blue that this is coming through, so.
It's the last meeting in the term, and it took me a while to put it together, but there's no hidden agenda other than...
Didn't say there was a hidden agenda.
No, I just was curious. To be clear for the council and the public, anybody on the council can put on any motion because they think it's important to the town of Narragansett. We don't need to communicate that to each other. It's an issue that I felt passionate about, so I put it on. There's not much I have behind that. Jesse?
Jesse Pugh, 20 South Trail. So I don't think this is an issue coming out of the blue at all. We've been talking about it in every forum that we've had for this campaign. I talk to people every day about it when I knock on doors, and after our forums, people come up to me and talk about it. So I'm not sure about the emails. I don't think that's a requirement to have any sort of correspondence.
Actually, you shouldn't be doing that. Communicating emails is a very difficult gray area, just want to tell you that.
Okay, yeah. So like Susan said, I don't think there's requirements to put a committee proposal on the agenda. I think it's definitely something that should be discussed and you know, put out there to see if there's interest in the community and people that are interested in joining. So, you know, you can't, you don't know what you have until you put it out there. So I totally commend you for doing it. I think Patrick has mentioned that's a big issue for him as well. So I'm happy to see it up here and looking forward to the vote. So thank you.
Thank you. Stanley.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. I've got a lot of confidence in Mike DeLuca. He seems to be able to handle what needs to be handled in order to do the appropriate thing for affordable housing. And I'd like to let him continue to do what he does, because I'm a little afraid of zoning issues. As we try to provide affordable housing, to me, in the back of my mind, I can just see lots getting cut up smaller and smaller to provide housing. And I'm not so sure government should be violating our zoning laws to provide affordable housing. And I commend Mike for doing everything according to books to make sure that we don't violate our zoning laws. And we're already so tight here. You can tell we're tight because of noise issues. You can hear somebody playing in the backyard. You can hear dogs. You can hear people. It's not only students. You can hear your neighbors. Our zoning is so tight, we can hear everything. We just can't have more people coming and making more noise around us, whether they're families or not families. I've had my neighbors yell at me because I've got 5 children, and they're very loud. They fix cars and make a lot of noise, and the neighbors are very upset. So there's a noise issue, and one of the solutions I can see is zoning. Let's not pack us in any tighter than we are. Now, as far as affordability for people to come here, there is an alternative that I'd like to present. The alternative would be an economic stimulus committee. In other words, maybe we can get our industrial park and get companies to try and relocate here to provide jobs. If we could provide jobs, maybe some father or some family can move here because the father or some relative has a job, father or mother, they have an appropriate job. So let's give companies, let's say, a 5-year tax break so they move into an industrial park and provide jobs. Now we got jobs. Now they'll have the economic availability to go out there and buy a house. But for government to go out there and support housing, a plan for supporting housing, in the old days, you rented to own. You rent a house until you get enough money to own it. You can't move to Newport, the fancy mansions, until you bought the first thing and built some equity. And the government, that's a socialistic move in my part, and it's hurting us in Narragansett to cut our lots up any smaller than they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing Justin.
Justin Skenyon, School Committee, 9 King Philip. Is that, yeah. So I'm very interested that the town council decided to pursue this. This is an issue I've been hearing a lot about on the school committee from a lot of families, either looking to move into town. I mean, it was an issue even before I ran for the first term on the school committee. Jill, Mrs. Lawler, I remember we met like 2 years ago and discussed this exact topic. As before we even were candidates, just in general issues about the town, trying to feel out what the election cycle was and bounce ideas off each other. So this was, I approved the town council going at this issue that is very vital to the Narragansett community. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Paul.
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Winwood Circle. I think your answer was interesting that I don't have to email anybody about this. I can put it on the agenda.
Yeah, so you giggling.
I think that says a lot about your leadership style. I think what this is more about, jamming, tonight's theory is jamming stuff through, right? It's more about the scorecard, because we know that Jesse is, part of his platform is the tiny houses, kind of Bernie Sanders-esque thing going on. So, I mean, that's a huge part of his platform, and you guys are just looking for another red check. See, it's a good idea, but to jam it through on the last council committee, it's political. It's clearly political. So, another green check.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else?
Susan, I don't have a problem with an affordable housing committee. I'm always sometimes reluctant to have new committees. It's just the last motion, the new council will inherit now blowing up the old library building committee and now has to restructure it. Right, we're not doing the work. We just said we'll blow up the old one and give you the new one. So I just think we've got to be careful with that in terms of these types of things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else wishing to speak? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No.
4-1, motion passes.
And Susan, for the record, I am for bringing young families to town. When I met with Justin, we talked about bringing young families to town, which is very different from affordable housing.
Okay. Motion 20. A motion to appoint a representative to be a small business liaison to meet with the representative from the Narragansett Chamber of Commerce and the Park and Rec Director on a biannual basis to coordinate and support town events. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So I put this on, again, 2 years ago. The first meeting we were elected, EDC went south. It was gone. It was voted down by the sitting council, very discouraged as the beginning of the term. 2 years has gone by. We have done really nothing to be in place of that committee. So I had a small business meeting. Some of you out there were involved and attended that meeting and talked about reinventing EDC. I said, I'm not sure this council would approve that. So we came up with the idea of a liaison that would sort of help organize with the events that would ultimately help small business. I thought it was a good idea. It's not a rush through. It's about 2 years too late for me. And so that's why it's on tonight. Any questions from the council?
Yeah, who is it?
I don't know. We don't have anybody. It's, would you be interested in having a town council represent, be a liaison to work twice a year with the chamber and the Park and Rec Director so they can coordinate the efforts, because there was a lot of hope that people would better communicate, and they wanted to just leave it to let it happen, but it needs to be expedited. There needs to be a plan to make it happen. So I thought the liaison might be a help. So that's really all there is to that motion.
No, I thought it'd be a person
It's just,
that we
it's
would
2
be
years
thinking
too
of.
late, and I want to be on the record for that. I mean, the first meeting we had here, we got rid of EDC, and there was a promise to put something in place. Where is it?
Well, we've spent a lot of time on other issues, Susan, this council has, so we can only accomplish so many things. But from my understanding, that this meeting, there were only maybe a few people, 3 or 4 people at the meeting. So how can the council make a suggestion based on 3 or 4 individuals from the public being at a meeting? I just don't. I think we are. This is another committee that we're trying to put through on the last night of the council, and it just doesn't seem right. I mean, there's going to be another council after us. That's the good news for the town. So we can have things like this going forward. But why to make this another committee, another position on the last night? Just makes no sense. Let's wait for the next council. If they're interested, let them do it.
I have to disagree.
I actually think it's a great idea, and I actually think the next council can certainly have their way with any of the things that happened tonight. So it's
They can disband it.
they can disband
Or
this.
they can appoint a person.
And honestly, I think the chamber, and I mean, I have lots of thoughts on the chamber, and I think the Parks and Rec director does a great job here. I think it's just another avenue for. And I'm assuming it's not a paid position; it's a volunteer position. So
Somebody on the council that would be appointed volunteer.
Oh, it's from the council. Okay, not an appointed from the council. So I think it's a.
So I know the current chamber director, and I know the one Peg Fredette that's just been appointed. Neither of those people need any help, as far as I can see. They're both qualified individuals, and I think for us to try to say that they don't have the ability is condescending.
Oh, that's not the motion at all. The motion is
Oh,
to
but Susan,
coordinate the communication. There's nothing condescending
No,
about
Susan, but I'm saying that from the motion that I read in depth about it, it says that in the motion, you include that there is current communication issues with the town and the chamber. And I don't see that as being true, having worked with the chamber and worked with the current director and knowing the next director quite well. They certainly have communication abilities, and I haven't seen any. I mean, Steve Wright's here. He's worked with the chamber tremendously. So I think that word is condescending. I mean, it's saying that they're not currently working together, and they are.
Is there a member of the
Joe.
chamber here that was
Come on,
at the
Joe.
meeting?
Get
Oh,
out. Oh.
Mr.
He's here.
Joe was there. You're a member of the chamber. Can you just speak to Ms. Loyla's concern?
Yes, Ms. Lawler. I think the motion is very applaudable in the sense that it came out of a discussion, not that anyone is missing anything or doing anything wrong. The chamber is very active and engaged with the Parks and Recs department. Christine, Peg now have already met with Stephen. There's great communication there. What has been missing, though, is that one connection of other things that the town council, or let's say the town is discussing with Stephen, and we may not, in the chamber, ever get wind of it for about a year later. And when we, the chamber, say get wind of it, is there something we can do together? What came out of everything was you've got a number of different factions doing things, and we're doing it all well. But imagine if we can put everyone together, and you do need a council member to just be that piece of glue, to just bring us together, looking ahead. What we would ever do in these 2 meetings a year is more planning for the 2 years ahead. And that's really what this motion was about.
Well said. Thanks, Joe.
All right, so there was definitely a void there when the EDC was disbanded. If I volunteer for this,
Well, you have
in
to-
the event I do get elected, which is my fledgling political career here, does that mean I don't have to get on the Affordable Housing Committee?
You'll have to see how the next council goes.
Yeah,
Anybody
I can
else?
support this.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Paul? Did you already speak on this, Paul?
Trying to break Stanley's record for most times spoken at town council meeting.
Impossible.
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. So this is about the scorecard again.
Am I on that card?
No, you're the only Democrat that's not on here. So, just kidding. So look, I was at that meeting. There were 2 businesses there, okay? I didn't see Aunt Carrie's there. I didn't see Iggy's. I didn't see Jerry's. I didn't see the most successful businesses in Narragansett there at all. The reason there's been the only void from the EDC is the government lobbying against itself. I mean, they took political positions under the imprimatur of the town. That was the problem. So, Susan, there's no void, and if you were going to fix it, last night, jamming it through, it's like a jam sampler tonight, jamming more stuff through, you could try to score political points to say, I'm for the businesses, other people aren't. And, you can be against this liaison before the businesses, because no business who's doing really well in Narragansett is asking for it.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else? Oh, you already spoke on it, Joe. Thanks. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
3-2, motion passes. We skipped 21, already did 22. A motion to approve the contract extension for seasonal sidewalk and public area trash reciprocal rubbish removal with Tidy Up, Inc. at their quoted bid price of $19,651 for a 1-year period ending October 2019 under the same terms and conditions of the original contract. Do I have a motion?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Discussion. Discussion from the council. Discussion from the public. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. 23.
We can agree.
What?
We can agree.
Yeah. It's funny, huh? 23, a motion to approve four website hosting support and site refresh agreements with Civic Plus in the amount of $24,963.18, and to authorize the town manager to sign the contract after review by the town solicitor. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Discussion from the council? Discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. 24, a motion to approve the purchase and installation of equipment of 3 new police vehicles for patrol data in the amount of $27,984.39. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion from the council? Discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Jill, did you say yes? I didn't hear it. 5-0, motion passes. A motion, 25, a motion to approve the HVAC upgrade work for the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facilities Irrigation System Improvements Project to be completed, JMB Mechanical, Inc., in the amount of $15,576. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Discussion from the council? Discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. 26, a motion to approve the contract extension for the pump station wet well cleaning for wastewater division with MacVac Environmental Services in the amount of $27,501 under the same terms and conditions as the original bid. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion from the council? Discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Jill, I didn't hear you vote, yeah.
Aye.
Thank you. 5-0, motion passes. 27, a motion to approve contract amended number 8 with the RT Group, Inc. for preliminary and final design, permitting and bidding phase services for the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facilities Asset Protection Project in the amount of $37,730. Do I have a motion?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Discussion from the council? Discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. 28, a motion to approve the SCADA and variable frequency drive, Phase 2 work of the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facilities Irrigation System Improvement Project to be completed by Electrical Installations, Inc., in the amount of $65,810. Again, this one I think is from Jeff. Can I have somebody move the motion?
So moved.
And a
Second.
discussion. Jeff, do you want to say anything? No.
Are they
Okay.
building a hotel down there or what?
Okay, from the public? Does such a fabulous job. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes.
Sorry about that.
Okay. 29, a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the emergency purchase of water for the distribution of schools and special needs populations from Ready Refresh from Nestle in the amount of $10,200.84, utilizing the State of Rhode Island's master price agreement. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Jim, do you want to say anything on this motion? On the water from the schools?
Madam President, this was a result of the town with emergency purchases of cases of pallets of water. We purchased 26 pallets. The school was requiring 3 bottles per student per day, about 1,200 students plus some staff. We were looking at 3 pallets every 2 days. We didn't know how long this water boil would be in effect. We erred on the side of caution, and we have no regrets. We would do it all over again. We kept the schools open. We kept anyone who needed water with water. We currently have numerous pallets in storage right now for any natural disaster. The storage life on it's approximately 2 years. So it's money well spent to have that in the event of any natural disaster we have. If it gets close and this water does expire, we'll put it out for the residents to take, elderly, whoever needs water. But I do think it was a very wise purchase.
Excellent. Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Motion 30, a motion to approve the purchase of 2 power load systems and stretchers for $102,644.32, and the accompanying 7-year service contract for $10,148.73 for the Steiker Medical, and authorizes the town manager to sign the contract after review by the town solicitor. Can somebody move the motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council on the power load system?
Just a question on what amount is actually grant versus taxpayer money. I just want to, Scott's here, yeah.
Sure. Good evening. This was a 2017 Assistance to Firefighter grant, so 95% of that cost we paid for by federal money.
Excellent.
The other 5% is being paid for by the town.
So 5% of 102 plus 10.
It's the total award is actually $229,000. So it's 95% of the total award is $218,000. We're still spending that grant money down, and then 5%, which is about $10,900.
5% of the 218. Yeah. Okay. No, it's the write-up is. It's clear it's grant money. I didn't know what the exact dollar figures were, just so the public knows. So you got grant of 95% for 218, so we only have to spend $10,000 in taxpayer money.
218 or
Essentially.
290?
I'm
Is it
sorry.
218 or is it 290?
The total grant award is 229.
229.
Yep. And the 95% is from the feds at 218.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Great. Thank you. Excellent.
Any other questions from the council? Anybody from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. 31, motion to appoint or reappoint an individual to the planning board for a 5-year term to expire on November 1st, 2023. Do I have an appointment?
Move to appoint Terry Fleming to the planning board for reappointment.
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0,
Aye.
motion passes. A motion, 32, a motion to reappoint 4 individuals to the Library Board of Trustees for a 3-year term to expire October 1st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
I move to appoint Ellen Coma, Nancy McKenna, Karen Shipshalowitz, and Lori Kelly for reappointment expiring 2 years from October 1st, 2018.
Second?
Oh, and second, any discussion? Any discussion from the council?
I would like to see a change in the Board of Trustees personally, based on the last 2 years. It's been kind of what I talked about with the one brain. Earlier, one brain, but not a lot of diversity on the board.
So, Ann, thank you, you gave us the attendance too for the committees, just like Terry Fleming's for that one.
He had
was,
perfect
5
attendance.
Yeah, and it's just your standard reappointment because he has 5 more years, so the same thing with these library members, they have another term to go as well.
Sure, and again, I just want to reiterate, I think that the next council should decide this. It's just too important of a project for people who may or may not be here.
Well, they expired a few days ago.
Anybody from the public wishing to speak? Any further discussion from the council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No?
No.
3-2, motion passes. And the last motion of the last meeting of this council, 33, a motion to approve the filling of 1 vacancy, which we're very sad, the town clerk position due to her retirement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Now, do we have to do this? Can we
Yeah.
just keep it here?
Do I have a second?
All right, I'll second it, Ann.
Any discussion?
Last
just-
call for democracy.
Thank you,
Discussion
Ann.
on the clerk's position? Okay, that's the motion before us, is on the clerk's position.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All those, anybody want to say anything else? Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ann.
Thank you from the
Thanks,
bottom of our
Ann.
hearts. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Discussion?
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
You
Good
wanna
night.
say-
Hey, before we adjourn, thanks to Mike Moretti for serving.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.